Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. I am super happy because in this episode, I'm chatting with artist Marybeth Rothman. Marybeth is a wonderful artist from the East Coast. She creates these beautiful, rich paintings that use orphan vintage photographs, encaustic paint, and mixed media. Her work has been shown in galleries and museums around the country and abroad as well. And she has done an amazing job also working in social media and jumping into reels and really sharing her work through social. So we're going to talk about everything that she's doing, an upcoming show that she has, also super excited about. And we're going to dive into, how she found her medium, her style, and how did she break into, social media as well. So don't go anywhere. It's going to be a great chat and you don't want to miss it.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Hey, hello, Marybeth. Good to see you. How are you today?
I'm good, Sergio. How are you?
I am doing great. Super happy, super excited to have you today here in the show because we've been talking about this interview for quite a while. And super happy to finally, be here, right? Seems like sometimes time goes by fast or sometimes it goes slow, but, it's good that we are right at the corner of a show that you have coming up, which we'll talk about today. We are going to also chat about social media, the love and hate relationship we all have, and all the very good things that you have done in your social media as well. And we came to know each other as artists and also inside the Art Next Level program, which you are a part of, and we enjoy having you there. So we're going to have a good chat, good conversation, Marybeth. So tell me a little bit of, what you've been doing these days in preparation for the show.
Well, I have the show coming up in Seattle, and I've been with Frederick Holmes and Company Gallery for 10 years. And he said, let's do another solo show. So I wanted to make a series of work that was just for this show and then also include some of my other portraits. So I locked myself in my studio for months and months and didn't cook dinner and had a lot of takeout. My husband was very understanding. And I came up with this new series, the string section of the Mill Creek Community Orchestra, and their full figure portraits.
And we're going to talk about that in detail, what that title means too, and what it entails. It's a long one, but it's a good one. It really grabs the interest. So let's talk a little bit about you as an artist. If you could tell our friends, before we talk about the show in detail, tell your friends a little bit about you as an artist. How did you become an artist and where you're based at right now?
Well, I don't have a memory of not making art. Like my first memory was making a collage in school, and they gave us these parts of a boat, and we pasted the pieces down. And I remember just thinking like, wow, there it is, And then when I wanted to go to art school, my father had an insurance agency, and he's like, no way, you got to go to Notre Dame and you got to come work for me. I grew up in an Irish family. And I was like, no, I'm not a business person. And so he said, well, if you get into the best art school, I'll pay for it. Otherwise, you got to sell insurance.
Oh, wow. That's quite of a challenge, right?
It worked out. And here I am. And I just do it every day. In my studio 7 days a week, because why not? I have the luxury of having that life. I mean, I brought up my children and in the studio before they woke up and while they were in school. And
that's amazing. That's amazing. And I've interviewed hundreds of artists before, and nobody has ever said something like that about your parents, like giving you that challenge. It's usually like the parent either saying yes or no or something else, and but never like, okay, I'm gonna challenge you. The best school.
Yeah, and Rhode Island School of Design wasn't too far from us, so it's like, yeah, if you get in there, you can go.
Wow, well, that is good. And I think even just thinking early on in your education, having that challenge perhaps kind of also gave you more focus of, okay, this is what I really want to do, and if I want it to happen, I gotta get in that school.
Yeah, And I was home on the weekends in high school, painting in my bedroom. And yeah, I really,
Yeah.
I guess it formed my personality. And I'm kind of an art nerd, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But do you feel like that work ethic also has carried over, even now that you don't have that pressure, of course, to do that, but like,
For
you know,
sure.
adapting it early on?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of my friends are not working anymore, non-artist friends, and they'll say, "Come on," because I live close to Manhattan, and let's go to the museum today. I say, "Well, you know, I can't. It's, you know, maybe on the weekend.
Yeah.
It's not good for friendships, but my artist friends understand." Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. No, I love that. Love that, Marvin. So now let's talk a little bit about your work itself. How did you arrive to things? How did you arrive to your style that you're working with right now, the imagery, the photography elements of it, and also the tactical qualities of that, which is the wax and caustic and mixed medium and all the things that you do with it. So, we as artists, we go through all these seasons of experimenting. And how was it for you to find that which was your thing?
It was probably about 20 years ago, maybe a little more. I was always painting the figure, and I would go to figure drawing sessions, where everyone just drew all night long, and always loved the figure. And then my father passed away, and I inherited a box of family photos. And I did not know most of the people. I knew my grandparents, but there were all these other people, and they were mostly photos from the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And well, as an artist, the material, it's in your studio. So, it just started happening. And I started to, imagine like who these people were. And I said, well, let me see what I can do. But you have to know, at that same point, I was starting to cut up my oil paintings of figures,
Okay.
and pasting the layers together. And, that didn't really work. And I couldn't figure out where I was going with this, but I needed to do this. And then I discovered encaustic, which is pigmented beeswax, all at the same time. Inherited the photos, cutting up my paintings, and so I said, what is this stuff? And a local art center was having a weekend workshop, and I said, okay, check it out. I was at a standstill, which is unusual for me. And I, like in the first 5 minutes, when we dipped paper into the medium and it transparentized, I was like, this is what I've been looking for. And I went home and put my oils away. I haven't looked into that box in 20 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
I should probably get rid of them. And so that gave me the opportunity to figure out what I was trying to do with the layers. Now I started layering things, and I was also photocopying, the photos from this box of, inherited photos, and it sort of came together. Well, at first, it was kind of interesting looking. And as the years went on, I understood what I was looking for with the layers, and learning how to use encaustic. And then I discovered Photoshop, because I wasn't getting enough from my photos, just enlarging them and overlay them with things. And so that's sort of where these I call reclaimed and reimagined visual biographies. Like, oh, but let me just step back a second. I started to sell my these paintings with my family photos in them, and so that was just like a little uncomfortable, And so I said, well, I love this 40s aesthetic. Let's see what I can find. And of course, eBay had photos, and then I went to yard sales and flea markets. And the more I bought, the more I bought. And I am not a collector. I don't collect things. It's not my need. And I started to notice there was just way too many photos out there that have been just cast off and lost and abandoned. And then that was even more intriguing. Like, okay, so I don't know who my family is. I kind of made up stories for them. But now there's this whole world. I mean, you could buy a box of photos, you see the couple getting married and, 30s, and then
vintage.
Oh my God. And of course, the aesthetic of the 40s is fantastic, and clothing for both men and women. And I just sort of stuck with that era. And so now I have all these strangers. In fact, my first show at Fred Holmes was called A Curious Collection of Strangers.
Okay.
And I started to, collect the photos, and they would be on my work table. And maybe for a couple of years even. And then eventually that one over there would speak to the one over here. And then bringing them together, I started to understand there was some conversation there. And that's when we started to make up these, like a cultural bond, a geographic location, or there was something in common. And, I came up with, like this, I told you about the orchestra, and, I have like the Hobby Horse Literary Guild. I had there were very few in the 40s, photo booth. I used a lot of photo booths at that time. Photo booth photos of African Americans, and I had about 8 of them out of thousands of photos that I collected.
Wow.
And so I said, who are these people? And I just kept looking at them, and I thought, well, maybe they're musicians. And so I started to look into the history of Harlem and discovered the Harlem Renaissance, where, people migrated from the South. And it was, a cultural boom for African Americans. And so the first African American bookstore was the Hobby Horse. So
wow.
This became the Hobby Horse Literary Guild. So I take something and then I, expand upon it.
It's quite interesting, something that started first as a discovery, first of the medium, and then the cutouts, and then finding these vintage photographs. Starting with the family pictures that we all have. I have albums of, uncles and, aunts that I've never met, but the pictures are there, and my parents tell me about them. And then going that into then looking at other people's photographs, first of all, in an aesthetic means, right? Kind of like, because they're beautiful, and the vintage and the clothing and all that of the 40s. But now it seems like also that gave you then the interest of digging deep into the history of, so what happened in that period, who are these clusters of people or groupings as you find them, and so on. And something that began perhaps a curiosity now has become, pretty much your force, your focus as an artist, and trying to rediscover and bringing those images to new light. And it's photography is such an interesting medium to me, because, and I was talking about this in the podcast the other day, that we had a chat about how as artists, we, let's say we work on a piece of paper or on a canvas, it's isolated from the world, right? It's just an object, and then we paint whatever inside. In photography, the world is already there. You're just framing a section of it, right? But what's outside, it's all part of what we see in. And so, when you think about vintage photography, the 40s, all these, which a lot of were very controlled environments too, where the sitter is there, and you imagine the people behind the camera, the photographer, the lighting, which is much more complex than what it is now. They didn't have stuff like this. You had a whole setup, and it is quite interesting. And then you have the clothing of the time, and the headdresses, and all those beautiful elements, plus the story. The musical instruments, or the horse. All these other things which kind of bring us back to a time, but also you're using a medium that is one of the oldest mediums too, encaustic, right, as well. There's so much history in encaustic, and then also in contemporary art, adoption of encaustic techniques, and bringing those to the forefront, and the combination of all those things, right? You bring something to the past to the present.
Yes.
I would love to hear the kind of what has been some of the response of the public as they come to a show of yours, like the one that's coming up, and they see your work maybe for the first time, and they see these photographs. Do you have like some memories or some stories, or like people say, oh, that reminds me of my dad or my uncles, or things of that nature? Because every time we see something like that, there's something in our past memory that we have seen. So I would love to hear that.
Well, I was in the show at the New Jersey State Museum in Trenton about 10 years ago. And, I had one of my portraits, and there was an article about it in the newspaper. So this woman contacted me, and she said, this man that you portrayed in the painting looks exactly like my father. And he
Really?
died before my children were born. She said, I know it's not him, but I'm bringing my children to the museum so they can see their grandfather. And I was
No way. That's a wonderful story. And
really so touched. And often it shows people say, oh yeah, this reminds me of this, but that was just so zeroed in on, her mom. Touched.
And I think because it's also, these photographs were made so long ago and there's only so many of them. Even the likeness of somebody we may know, we might associate with a lot more because we have seen only so few of them. For example, I've only seen like 2 pictures of my great grandfather and that's it, right? Versus like today, we take so many pictures of this thing. Yeah, but like, so it's easier to make those associations with perhaps somebody we knew or we heard of because of an image that you present in the show. And I think that's wonderful, for as much as we live in the moment, when artwork or when art allows us to kind of like push back in time and remember or acknowledge a personality or a time frame, I think it's a wonderful thing. It brings us into that journey.
Well, it's, in relation to, what people are putting on social media, there's going to be an endless record of all of us. But these people, you understand when, someone dies in the family and then the photos start getting distributed or put in a yard sale. End. That's the end point, for these photos and these people. It's not that I'm making heroic art, but it's just what inspires me and intrigues me. Like this, who are these people? Someone threw them away. And
yeah. Have you had people who may want to commission a piece based on their own photographs, like to memorialize, a loved one?
I have done that. And I did one this last winter, 22. And this woman brought me this beautiful photo, because a lot of times it's not in great shape or not a beautiful photo. It was spectacular of her parents from the 50s. And then I sat with her and I said, tell me about your parents. And, her father worked for IBM or not. Yeah, it was IBM. So on his tie, because what I also do, I don't just take the photograph. As I said, I started to work with Photoshop. I take imagery or from other photos or antique documents or whatever, and put that onto the character, onto the subject of the portrait. And, it just sort of further tells the story. It gives it a layer. So for her, like her dad, his tie, I made this IBM pattern that was very, very subtle. And I showed it to her. And then he had a tie pin, but she told me he was in the army. And so I looked up, and she gave me his card, his discharge card. So I looked up his regiment, and I found a pin online on eBay for his regiment, something, and I just changed the date, whatever. So the kind of crazy details I put in every portrait, whether I know the people or not, and she hugged me when she got the portrait. It was great. It was really that's stressful because you're trying to please one person.
Right. But that is really cool. You're working with somebody on something that's so dear and special to them, and you don't want to screw it up. There's a lot of times there's only one photograph that they may have, or one sort, right? So
I do too, and I let people choose, and there's less pressure, and they're very similar, but then it's off of me.
Very cool. I love it. Well, let's talk about your show that's coming up. And then I want to talk about social media because, I know that is also a topic that a lot of our friends will enjoy listening to and how you have approached it. But let's talk about, first of all, the exhibition at Frederick Holmes and Company Gallery that's coming up on June 1st. So tell us a little bit about what's the premise of the show, what do you hope people will get when they experience the exhibit?
Well, it is called Observations and Conjectures Near Matticat Road. So it's, again, one of my titles that people are like, what is she talking about? But that's my thing. I want to draw people into these worlds that I create. And, a lot of times, like with the new work that I did specifically for the show, it's an incongruous environment and subject. Like they're a string section of a symphony, but they're all outside and they're on horses and boats, and So I want people to. I want to draw the viewer in all my portraits, but specifically for that, it's a little off-putting, not off-putting, but makes you unbalanced, and let them maybe write the story of the portrait, with the parameters I've given them. And so for the Frederick Holmes Gallery show, it's this new series, and then I have portraits that are just the face. With this new series, I wanted to step back and see the whole figure, and maybe there's more to the story with the environment or their gesture or their clothing or who they're standing next to, instead of zooming in on the face. And the way I tell the stories for the portraits in the gallery, in the show, I create these elaborate hats or masks or tattoos, or I call it biographical texture. And so I did that, but on the full body. So it was really fun. I challenging. I did some of them 3 times this winter.
Wow.
With encaustic, you can strip it down. You don't paint over, you strip it down to the board. Finally getting what I wanted. And so it's going to be 17 works in various sizes. And I have one large 48 by 60. And encaustic, that is a feet.
That is big, yeah.
You have to paint in a molten form, so the torch is, continually going to keep the paint fluid. And that is I call her the last mermaid, and she's this girl on a diving board. And I'm so happy she's going to be in a summer show. I'm so excited.
And that at that scale, almost the figure almost starts to become life size.
Yes. Yeah. It's a side pose, and she has on a bikini top and a like a grass skirt. And so, of course, I made a crown of flowers, and those are flowers from my old studio. I use those in a lot of my works. And, I weave a crown on my computer, and her bikini top, I have like vintage wallpaper, and some tattoos on her legs that, I'm telling you.
I love that. I love that. How these photographs all of a sudden take on a new life, under the hands of the artist. One of the, I had the opportunity to preview some of the works that you sent me for the show. One of my favorite ones is the Falcone twins. I love that piece, the mystery of, these 2 females, photographed from the back on some sort of balcony, but you don't know what they're looking at, you don't know what's on the other side, and so we are kind of like passing by into this moment, right, where they're looking at the distance. And I love when a work invites us to guess what's on the other side, what's happening. It doesn't tell the full story. And I think it's one of those where it doesn't tell us the full story and brings us in to to see that. I love that piece.
Well, thank you. That is a photo that I've had in my studio for 15 years.
Wow.
And I just love this woman, and I tried her in a few different situations, and when it doesn't work, I put it aside. I know someday she's going to tell me what she needs to do. And then I remembered these twins when I was growing up in my town, and I don't know if they were twins or they just were sisters, but they wore the exact same clothes.
Yeah.
And they were always out walking, the same white little purse and the pink shirt. And I was like, oh, maybe she could be a twin.
Yeah, I'll make her a twin. Yes.
So, excuse me. I, in my computer, I made her a twin, and she was near some sort of balcony, but I reconstructed it so I could have 2 people there. And there's I don't know if you noticed, like the texture on there are trees, and that's something from another painting that I use, because I'm a hoarder of textures. Like I'll make a texture for, maybe a mask or someone's face, and then I keep it, and then I said, well, maybe if I apply it to this surface next time, and then it becomes something else. So that's like the 4th generation of trees and words, and now Falcone twins. That was when I hit it, when I saw the twin imagery, I was like, got it.
Bingo. And I love it. No, it's a beautiful piece. And we want to invite our friends to check out the show at Frederick Holmes and Company that's opening on June 1st in Seattle. So if you are in the Seattle area, please stop by. Or if you are there for, how long is the show? For a month?
Until July 4th.
Until July 4th. So it's a cool month. Stop by if you are around. And also you can find them online as well. I'm sure there will be pictures of the opening and so on as well. So we're looking forward to see that. So, and I'm sure, Marybeth, you will be also creating more content as you get closer to the end, which brings us right into social media. Tell me a little bit about, your relationship with social media. I know you, as an artist, working with us in the Artist Next Level program. I believe you took the Instagram Reels challenge with me, right? And that's where we were making reels and learning how to make reels, and then you took off.
Right. That was great. I have to say. And, you brought us through the steps of using a template and whatever. It was great. In fact, I think I'm going to rewatch it, just to
to get a refresher. Yeah.
And then one day you said, put yourself in front of the camera. Because I was doing all these reels of my, my paintings on the wall or, whatever, quick pictures of them, whatever it was. And you said, put yourself in front of the camera. And I'm like, I'm a mature woman. I mean, like all these girls in their studios with their cutoffs on and their work boots. I'm like, that isn't going to happen.
Not me, right?
No, that ship sailed. So I said, well, okay, I'll give it a try. And I got 56,000 hits because they saw me with my work. It was crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah, really. It's so interesting. And so I'm like, all right. And so I did a number of those, the slow reveal, like now you've seen everybody in the universe do but I really enjoyed it, using Instagram. And at first I was like, oh, do I need another technology? I can't do this. You get to a certain point. I remember my father-in-law, we couldn't get him to use a fax machine. He was like, no, I'm done. This is my fax machine. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel. And I think it's great. I'm having a ball. I'm making fun videos for my my show. Another one I did, 175,000.
I'm looking at them right now. Yes, I just found that one.
And it was
170,000 views for that art video. That is great.
Well, it was a template, and people don't understand. Like when you go on, there it goes. Tick, tick, tick. That's everything that was in my show in January in New York. I had a show for abstract work, a 2-person show. And it makes a clicking sound of a camera, which is weird because phones don't make clicking sounds.
Yes, exactly.
So I said, well, let me try this. And the response has been crazy. And then some people write to me and they say, my brain is fried, but I loved it.
My brain is fried, but that is great. And, you have this one with 56,000 views, which is great. And there we go. It worked. And, I love that you were not willing to listen to the voice that we all have, like, oh, you don't have the looks of a 30-year-old or 20-year-old anymore. I don't either, and like it's not gonna be good, or what other people will say, it's not serious. But you say, okay, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna do it. And then the on the other side now, after a few months of that you started doing this, you see the response of the people. At the end of the day, our art gets to be seen by more people, and that's a wonderful thing, I think. And at the same time, conscious that one video might do good, and the other video next day might do really bad. Might only get 100 views, and that's okay.
I don't know. I liked the 200 views. The one that I thought was just going to be crazy got insane views. But it's interesting because I think with the reels, people, it's a little more fun for them, and they stop. And the community that has been building with that is really fun. Nice people, getting in touch with me, and there you go.
What would you say to an artist who's listening or watching right now and is being kind of like on the fence, like, oh, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do dance videos, or whatever, all the negative voices that are in our head, that's just kind of preventing them from showing up to their audience?
just do it. Just jump in the pool. I mean, it's fun and it's not hard. You start with simple things. You post one photo, then the next, you get used to that. Then you do the carousel, which is a couple of photos. But go online and look at what people are doing. There's tons of tutorials. It is not difficult. Or, of course, take Sergio's courses,
Right.
which have really changed my output into the universe with my artwork. It's been great. And I say, just go for it. I have friends who are like, oh, you got to teach me. And then I try, and then they're like, but we're getting, I'm chipping away.
Yeah. Well, you're a great example, Marybeth, to many artists. You inspire me too when I see your videos. And that is a wonderful thing. And, we have this social media outlet where we can show up. And sometimes I feel that sometimes artists kind of like, almost like we want to demand, like, if I make a video, I must get 10,000 views. And, we can't do that. It's when you do it with an attitude of, well, I'm just going to show up, share, and see what happens. And then it's a video, next day is another day, it's a new day, and see what happens, right? Even if 50 people see it, those are 50 people that yesterday had not seen your work, perhaps. And
people didn't come to my studio yesterday to look at
exactly.
So
I think you have the right attitude, and I think that's really, what you're experiencing, the success in your videos and what you're doing in social media. And I want to also congratulate you on this beautiful exhibition. You have worked really hard on this. I know we met also about preparing all your marketing for different things. And so, it's just really exciting to see your work in progression. And before we kind of wrap it up, I also would like to touch on a couple of things with you. One, what do you feel as an artist has been one of your most difficult seasons or situations to face as an artist?
Projection from galleries is difficult. Mine was, being a mom, working. My children always came first, but I could wake up before they did and get into my studio and work. And when they were in school, that was challenging. And most mom artists or dads or whatever, I think that's a challenge. But if you got to do it, if you have to make art, you got to make it.
Yeah, I admire that, from artists with kids, because it is a difficult season. Do you feel that the art world kind of tends to look, or maybe I think more in the past it used to, I think it's getting better, but do you feel that it tends to kind of not look with good eyes when an artist decides to take care of their family first, perhaps before their art?
That's across the board in every career. I mean, certainly women are more valued now. Look, they get spectacular maternity leave and whatever they need. But, when you're an artist in your studio, in your house, there is no maternity leave.
Yes, exactly.
You work through your pregnancy, you have your baby, it's in this role, you do your thing. I think it's definitely getting better.
Yeah. And if you have done it, other artists can do it too. So you're a great example of that. Wonderful. And now, and on the other side, give me a couple things that have been like pinnacles in your career, things that you have been really proud of. I know you have many, but a couple of things that when you looking back, like, that was really good. That was a good win for me.
Well, one was a show about 10 years ago at the Heckscher Museum in Long Island, and it was called Rip the Allure of Collage. And it was this unbelievable show with Roy Lichtenstein and Joseph Cornell and Salvador Dali, and incredible. And then one other, which is just sort of fun. One of my paintings was on a billboard in Los Angeles, and it's called the Billboard Creative. And I tell everyone should apply to this.
Okay.
Fabulous. The city of Los Angeles becomes a gallery, and there were 21 billboards that year. And so they have people like me, which we consider mid-range, I guess. And then it was Marilyn Minter and Joseph Wiener.
Wow.
It's just fun. I went out to LA to see the show, but coming up, I have a show that is really so exciting. It's at the Nassau County Museum of Art in Long Island, New York. and it's Modigliani and the Modern Portrait.
Hmm.
And a curator came to my studio a couple of weeks ago, and he picked out 6 works, and I'm not sure which ones are going to be in the show, but it's not only Modigliani, it's Picasso and Man Ray and
Oh, wow.
Hart Benton and David Hockney and Eric Fischel and Marybeth Rothman, and I don't
You got a great company then.
I don't know who the other artists are my level, but very exciting. I'm like over the moon with that. I can't wait. That's in July.
Well, that's great, Marybeth, and I think it's important for us artists, to recognize or hard times, what we learn from them, and then also celebrate our wins and remember, even if they've been a while, remember the good things and those good memories, just as your photographs do, brings us back as well. So, Marybeth, where can our friends find you on social media and also online, like your website? You could share.
Well, it's at Marybeth Rothman on social media, on Instagram, Marybeth Rothman on Facebook, and marybethrothman.com. I make it simple. That's my website.
Awesome. So, my friends, please make sure you follow Marybeth on your socials, particularly on Instagram. Check out her reels. Make a comment if you saw this interview and her next reel, and said, hey, yes, I remember you from that interview with Sergio. So thank you so much. Do us a big favor. Both Marybeth and I will be so happy if you click on that little share button on your screen, wherever you're consuming this content, and share it with other artist friends. I think they will also find inspiration from Marybeth's story. And of course, if you are in the Seattle area, stop by Frederick Holmes and Company Gallery for the show that opens on June 1st. So thank you, Marybeth, for joining us. Hope you have a fabulous and beautiful rest of your week.
Thanks, Sergio. It was great talking to you.
All right. Likewise. Goodbye, my friends.
Bye.
See you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.